Well, as you can see, I've finally gotten my Jet Ranger finished. I've gotten it painted up white, and I've applied the decal sheet. The paint that I used on the Jet Ranger I'll show you in a minute. I had one or two problems with the decal sheets application. I couldn't quite get it right according to what it said in the instructions. I don't know whether it was a misprint in the instructions or what, but I just couldn't get it right. But I'll come back to that in a minute anyway, and explain to that just in case anybody else comes up against the same problem as what I did. Anyway, in one of my other videos I said that I was going to make some clear glass windows to put in rather than use the tinted Grosvenor ones, as I thought the tinted ones sort of spoiled the effect of the helicopter. As it happened, I made the clear ones, and it was the clear ones that spoiled the effect of the helicopter, simply because you could see too much of the mechanics inside through the clear glass. So what I decided to do was I decided to just go with the tinted windows that came with the kit, and I think they've come out okay. One of the recommendations with the windows was that when you apply them, you painted the edge white around the around the edge of the glazing panels, which you do on some of the Grosvenor models. I did on the I'd advise you to do that on my BO105 as well, which I did with that. But anyway, rather than paint them, I decided to use some of the Model Technics trim line, which is this stuff here, which you can get from your local model shop, and it comes in a variety of widths. I think you get about 6 different widths of tape on there, and you just sort of peel it off the backing and just attach it on. The reason why I used that stuff was because the edges of the glass as they came supplied were not very neat, and to sort of level them off to get the nice neat edges, even edges all the way around, I was going to have to reduce the size of the windows quite significantly. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll just use that tape, and you get a nice neat finish with that anyway. And it saved painting them and running the risk of any paint running under the masking tape and spoiling the effect of that. So I think, looking at the windows, from various angles, I think the Jet Ranger's turned out okay. I'm quite pleased with it. The paint that I used on it, just if anybody's interested, was the I mentioned on one of the other videos I was going to use the Flare aerosol paint, and this is the stuff here. It's already fuel proof, this paint, which is quite handy. You can just spray it on and forget about it basically, and the fuel proofer increases with age. The longer the paint's on, the better the fuel proof becomes with it. What I did with this was, before I used it, obviously give it a good shake. I shook it for about somewhere around about 3 minutes, and then I actually stood it in a bucket of hot water. And what this does, it helps the paint to come out the nozzle a lot sort of smoother, and I think you get quite a good even coat with it as well. So that was the paint that I used. Obviously, because I had applied the decals, I was going to have to proof the decals as well, which again I used the Flare gloss fuel proofer, you can see there, which you use in exactly the same way as the paint. You just give the can a good shake, and again I stood it in a bucket of hot water and just shook it as I was using it, sort of thing, in between sprays, and it came out nice and smooth and fine, and it's protecting the decals there from any damage from exhaust smoke and what have you. Anyway, to get back to the story of the decals, what it was, that the problem that I had was this gap here. Now if we have a look at the instructions, you can see that the gap between there where I've just pointed out has to be 7mm. Now I had this top section of decals, which is actually 3 pieces per end. You've got 3 pieces here, and you've got 3 separate pieces here on the tailboom, and I actually had those on and off about 6 times trying to get this gap right. If I got the gap right here, it was wrong here and here. So what I had to do was I had to just sort of compromise. Obviously I couldn't have a gap between the decals there, it was going to look ridiculous, and the same on the tailboom, so I just had to make this gap a little bit bigger here, and I think it's something like 1.5 centimeters bigger, so it's a little bit bigger than what it should be, but I don't think it's, when you have a look at the helicopter from a distance, I don't think it's come out too bad. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I can tell you about. The other thing that I mentioned as well on one of my other videos was the exhausts. What I had intended to do was to just mask around the exhausts and paint those with them in place. But what I decided to do in the end was I thought, well, I'll crack the glue loose and I'll remove the exhausts rather than run the risk of, you know, spoiling the chrome effect, because they're a nice chrome finish on the exhausts. So I painted the fuselage and just glued them back in again. It was only a few minutes job to do that. The other thing I've done is, as you can see, I've got the Bell Jet Ranger 3 badges on there, painted silver and glued in place, and the same on the other side. We've got the main aerial glued on there at the front. That's glued into place. Top windows are in now. All the glazing panels, incidentally, are held in with little screws. The screws that come with the kit I thought were quite a bit too big, and it spoiled the effect of the glazing panels, so I got the smaller ones. I think I got those from Vario UK to hold the glazing panels in place, and I think it looks a little bit better. What I did with those was, as with all the screws that hold the various parts on, I just screwed them into a piece of wood. Spray painted them the colour that I wanted them, which obviously was white. When the paint had dried, just went over them with the fuel proof, so the screws are protected as well. So that's basically just about it, really. Other thing that I've gotten done is I've got the static vent glued on there, which you can see there, and there's a one on the other side as well. A pitot tube's glued into place and painted the correct colour, which is silver. But other than that, I think that's about all I can show you on the Jet Ranger. As I say, I think it's come out quite good. I'm quite pleased with it. As I say, I had a few problems with the decals, or rather the top part of the decal sheet. You know, applying the top part of the decal sheet here, which is these ones, you know, trying to get that gap right. But as I say, it hasn't come out too bad. So what I intend to do next is, hopefully I'll get some flying shots of the Jet Ranger in the air, and you can have a look and see how it looks in the air. You know, different heights and different attitudes, and you know, you can have a look at that and see what you think. But I think it should look okay. So I think that's about all for now. So thanks for watching, and I hope to speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.